Okay, hello everyone, my name is Rifky Septianasri, and today I want to explain a little bit about English morphology based on the book of An Introduction to English Morphology by Andrew Carstairs McCarthy. In the first subchapter, Words as Meaningful Building Blocks of a Language, it explains that we naturally think of words as the fundamental units of a language. We learn to speak by combining words, and even as adults, we use single words independently, like in commands, stop, go, or more. And because words have their own meaning and it is often unpredictable, we need dictionaries to define them. So, a word is basic in two ways. It has a meaning that must be learned, and it is a building block that can be used to form sentences. The next subchapter is word as type and words as tokens. This chapter introduces a very important distinction between a word as a type and as a token. A word as a token is each individual occurrence of a word in a given sentence. For example, in the sentence of the cat and the dog, there are 5 tokens. But a word as a type is only the unique word itself. So in that same sentence, the cat and the dog, there are only 4 types because the word the appears twice in that same sentence. The next one is words with predictable meanings. Not all words that needs to be memorized or looked up in a dictionary because their meaning can be figured out by their parts. For example, if you already know what the adjective dioecious means, you can understand the new word diociously because the suffix "ly" means in that manner. And similarly, you can understand a brand new word like uncleantenish because the prefix "un" means not and the suffix "ish" means like. So uncleantenish means not like Clinton. These words are built from recognizable pieces like prefixes, roots, and suffixes, which we will get more in depth later, whose meanings combine in a regular way. The next section is non-words with unpredictable meanings. The opposite of the previous chapter is also true. Some strings of words have meanings that you just cannot guess from the individual words themselves. These are called idioms. For instance, if you take the phrase keep tabs on literally based on the word tab, it does not make sense. But as an idiom, it means to monitor closely or to watch closely. Other examples include a red herring, which means a distraction. So these are lexical items that needs to be memorized, and you cannot guess their meanings from their words. The next part is taking words apart, which introduces the concept of morphemes, the smallest meaningful unit that makes up words. In the same example of uncleantenish, there are actually 3 morphemes in that word: the un, the Clinton, and the ish. The chapter also say that a morpheme identity is not solely based on a consistent meaning, and it clarifies that morphemes are different from syllables. A short word can contain multiple morphemes like tense, which has 2 morphemes, and a long word might have just 1 morpheme, like catamaran, which is just 1 morpheme. There are 2 kinds of morphemes, which the bound and free. A free morpheme, like help in the helpfulness, can function as a word on its own. So, basically, a free morpheme is a morpheme that can stand independently without needing other morphemes to become meaningful. While, on the contrary, a bound morpheme like the nurse or full cannot stand alone and must be attached to another morpheme to be given a meaning. This chapter also explains that there are complex words that has a free morpheme at their core, and it also introduces cranberry morphemes, which are basically bound morphemes that only appear in one or two specific words, like cran in the word cranberry, and whose individual meaning is unclear. Root affixes and combining form. The core of the word, which is a root, it is the one that carries the main meaning, and it can be either free, like break, read, or it can be bound, like the leg in legible. Affixes are bound morphemes that is attached to a root and are further categorized as prefixes, which is before the root, like an, or suffixes, which is after the root, like able. And combining forms are a special category of bound morphemes, often from Latin or Greek, that are combined to form technical or scientific words, like electro and scopy in electroscopy. And unlike regular compounds, these do not contain free roots, though some combining forms like photography, which is the photo part, can become a free morphemes over time. The next one is allomorphs. A single morpheme is not always pronounced the same way, and these different pronunciations are called an allomorphs. For example, the plural s does not sound the same in every word. In the word cats, it is sounded with an s sound, while in the word dogs, it is sounded with an z sound. The sound that comes right before the suffix tells us which one to use, but it is not only sounds that dictate the choice of the pronunciation. Sometimes the grammar or the specific vocabulary do as well. For instance, like nouns like wife change their final sound from an f to a v, and then adding the plural s, like from wife to wives, which is very different. But others which end with an f, like cliff, do not have the same rule. Next one is identifying morphemes independently of meaning. You can identify a morpheme based on its pattern and shape, even if the meaning is unclear or inconsistent. For example, in words like reduce, induce, and the deuce, the common part of deuce does not have a clear, separate meaning on its own, but we can tell it's a morpheme because it consistently changed to duct in related nouns like reduction, induction, or deduction. This pattern of shared form, which is evidence that a shared morpheme, even with a reliable meaning, exists. This means that we can analyze the structure of a word based on recurring pieces and their sound changes, not just on what those pieces are supposed to mean. The next part is lexemes, word forms, and grammatical words. A lexeme is the abstract dictionary entry version of a word, like perform. The specific shape a lexeme takes in a sentence is its word forms, like perform, performs, and performed, the past tense version. These different forms are usually required by grammar, a process called inflection. For example, performs is used when the subject is a third person singular. And this is a grammatical rule and not a specific choice. And a grammatical word describes the job of a word is doing in that sentence. For example, performed is the past tense of perform. These concepts help us understand that what we casually call a word can be an abstract unit, a concrete form, or a grammatical function. Regular and irregular inflection. An inflection is a process of changing the word's form for grammar. It usually follows a predictable pattern, but there are some words that do not follow this. The regular inflection follow the rules, like adding an s to make a noun plural, or adding an ed at the end of the verb to make it past tense. But in irregular inflection, this rule doesn't apply, and words with irregular inflection needs to be memorized. For example, child. It is not child's, but it is children, or food. It is not foods, but it is feet. This irregularity is a key reason that dictionaries list these special forms. And moving on is a form of noun. Nouns primarily inflect for number, singular or plural. The regular way to inflect a noun is by adding an s at the end, but there are several irregular patterns. For example, some change an internal vowel like man change into men, and then some use an entire different ending like ox to oxen, and some doesn't change at all, which is called a zero plurals. For example, a deer. For zero plural nouns, we rely on the sentence context, like the words a or to know if they are singular or plural. And a few nouns like scissors, glasses, or pants exist only in plural forms, even though they refer to a single item, which forces us to use phrase like a pair of pants to express a single object. The next one is pronouns and determiners. Pronouns and determiners belong in a closed class, meaning that we do not get new addition to this class. And that is true because pronouns has only 7 unit in it, which is he, she, they, we, I, you, and it for the longest time. And determiners is also the same, like this or that. Pronouns, inflection of pronouns is based on their role in a sentence, like the different forms for a subject, like he, but if the pronoun is an object, we use the form him. And then determiners like this and that can also change to show number or plurality, becoming these and those. Words like my or his act like possessives, but their exact grammatical category is still a bit tricky, and it's more of a matter of a sentence structure than word formation. Next is verbs. Most English verbs have up to 5 different forms, such as the verb give, which has give, gives, gave, giving, and given. These forms show differences in tense or person and order grammatical roles. For many regular verbs, the past tense and the participle form are the same word, like perform, which is performed and performed. But some verbs known as modals can have fewer forms. For example, like can or must. And the verb be is an exception to the rule because it has 8 different forms, which is, am, and all of it. And the final one is adjectives. Many English adjectives change their form to show a degree of comparison. The basic form for is called the positive, something like happy. And if we add er to the and become, for example, the happy adjective become happier, we get the comparative form. And by adding est to the end, we get the superlative form, which is happiest, to show the highest of degree. But this doesn't work to all adjectives, because for longer adjective, for example, beautiful, we do not add a suffix at the end. Instead, we use words more and most. I think that is all of the material that I can explain for this opportunity, I would like to thank you for the attention, and I will close by saying wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for watching.